Watching movies with a dead chick, and the gang, funny, strange, hysterical, or just plain bang bad. This weekend just got amazing. It's a watch along weekend. Horror, sci-fi, comedy, and more. We got it all this weekend. This weekend just got amazing. It's a watch along weekend. Horror and sci-fi, comedy, and more. We got it all this weekend. And above all, don't forget to watch Evil Dead Chicks Top 10.
Hey, gang. Hey, the poet, and welcome to yet another Evil Dead Chicks Top 10. And we're going to get to my top 10 religious horror films here in just a little bit. I'm feeling slightly stronger right now, so y'all may have noticed I'm a little more animated than I have been this past week. And I'm glad for those of you that have been able to join me for the streams that I've been doing this past week, regardless of, how energetic or whatever I was. But you may have noticed that one, what's this jacket that Dana's got on? Well, gang, I have not talked about these jackets in a long time because it took me a little while to find the time to get mine done. And what this is and what is going to soon be available on the Dead Ice on Deck Horror Shop is customized live streamer jackets or podcaster jackets. I mean, people do live podcasts where they're on camera and they might want something to represent their brand, right? So, what I'm going to start offering, these ain't going to be cheap, folks, because one, they're customizable, and two, the stuff to make them is not cheap, folks. So you can probably tell that some of my stuff is patches that's on mine, like the 81 is an iron-on patch. Well, this side has an 81 iron-on patch. And that is because technically the Evil Dead came out in 81. So I also have, various horror film stuff. There's a My Bloody Valentine. Most of it's Evil Dead because I am the Evil Dead chick. I could put something for Deadites on Deck, and which I actually did, folks, but I'm not going to recommend that you get these back patches. I don't know if y'all can see that real good. It actually says Deadites on Deck. And it was a customized patch that I got and I sewed on. And I didn't really like the way it looked. Also, I've got some various buttons that Steve has gotten for me, a Hellfire Club one. There's a Camp Crystal Lake one. What else we got? Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs body lotion one. There's an It one with little Georgie's paper boat attached to a red balloon. So I've got a variety of things, but this is how I wanted mine to look. So I'm going to offer these in male and female. This is a female, what's called a varsity bomber jacket. And that's how I wanted mine to look. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could make these for other people? So they're going to be available in either male or female, men's or women's. And they're going to be in a variety of sizes. I think I can get them from small up to extra large. If you require a bigger size, check with me and I'll see what I can do to get the color and size that you want. Okay. I don't want to say, and I'm not trying to say anything about anybody's size. Some people may want a bigger size just because it's more comfortable on them, but I want to be able to make whatever you guys and gals want. Okay. So they'll be available in a variety of colors, a variety of sizes, and either men's or women's. And you will get your choice of, you can tell me what you want on a customized name badge to put on the jacket. Like my screen name is Evil Dead Chick from my channel. So you might want to do that. You might want to do something else. But you will get your choice of that. And just basically, describe what kind of theme that you want, or, what kind of brand you want to advertise yourself. Since I'm the Evil Dead Chick, I've got some Evil Dead stuff, but I've got some various other horror things because mostly that's what I talk about on my channel is horror films. Every once in a while, I'll talk about something different. Now, when I said these weren't going to be cheap, they're not going to be cheap. But you got to keep in mind that these are customized. And I have to not only get the jacket, which to get good quality ones, you got to pay a little bit for them. And also, these are fleece, though they're not leather. They're like fleece and cotton. So I wanted to make that known that they're not even a faux leather. They're or fake leather. They're fleece and cotton. So, but these still cost to get good quality ones. I mean, you don't want to get something that's going to fall apart the first time you wash it, or the first time you wear it. You don't want it to rip. Now, mine that I have has like a silk lining in it. Well, probably more of a satin lining, not a silk lining, because silk would be, more expensive. But the men's probably won't be like that, but the women's probably will have this satin type of lining inside. Now, I'm not saying the men's might not, and there may be some of you men that want a satin lining, and that's cool. Oh, I forgot. I also have a red rum button on here too that Steve got me. Now, if you guys and gals want buttons, you can kind of describe what what type of buttons would you want? Friday the 13th? Would you want the Evil Dead? Would you? And I will see what I can do, but the buttons might be a little bit harder to obtain because a lot of these buttons Steve has gotten from Temu for me. And he said, hey, I got something new for your jacket. Now, that does not mean that once you get this customized jacket that you can't add all the buttons that you want to add to this thing. You can, that's the great thing about these. You can continue to add on to them even after you get them. But I wanted to be able to do the bulk of the work for you so you don't have to do, the complete thing. You can feel free to add buttons on all day long, right? So basically, I'd be willing to make, unless it's something obscene, I'm not going to. I'm not going to make somebody a Nazi jacket or anything. I have to draw the line somewhere. But, if it's horror film related or something like that, and it reflects your brand, then I'm all for that. I'm all for doing something like that. Also, gang, I hate to be, sound like I'm a stick in the mud, but I'm not going to do any Nazi jackets. I'm not going to do any serial killer jackets because even though I may have a morbid curiosity in reading up on serial killers and cult people and stuff like that, it doesn't mean I want to put their face or likeness on a jacket. There are places that will do that for you and make you t-shirts like that, but I ain't your gal if you're looking for that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying you're bad if you want that. I'm just saying I got to draw the line somewhere with stuff. And those are two things that I just will not do. My conscience will not let me do. So, but basically, horror film related stuff, we can do that, or, if your podcast or your live stream doesn't have to do with horror, maybe it just has to do with movies in general. And you want a cool little, a jacket that's representative of your brand. Hey, just, once I get the information up on the site, which hopefully should be soon, you guys can, get in there and tell me what it is that you want. Now, again, the price, it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be $150. And people are probably going to think, oh my gosh, Dana, are you kidding? For a jacket? Well, again, I have to get the jacket. I have to get the materials to decorate the jacket the way that you want. So people got to think in those terms. And, I think my jacket, I wanted to have something to show you guys and gals. And I also wanted to have my own jacket. And I have not worn it, on a string. I'm going to wear it on the string tonight. But I lost all my people except the poet, I think, while I was jabbering about this. But I did want to let people know these are soon going to be available on the site. And I kind of wanted to show mine so you get some kind of idea what these are going to look like. Okay. And I have the flat rate of $6 shipping. It doesn't matter if you get one of these jackets or two or whatever, or you get this jacket and you get you some t-shirts and you go shopping. And Steve asked me, he said, do you think people will be willing to pay that for a jacket? I said, these people that are making money off their channel, and there are some people that are making good money off their channel or their podcast, I think they could afford to do it. Also, I thought this might be a good time to let you guys and gals know that for things $50 and over, you have a PayPal option to pay them for. So theoretically, you could, I would get my money from PayPal, but you would be paying PayPal 4 times. And it should tell you on my site how much you're going to be paying until it's paid off. Okay. How much each one of your 4 payments is going to be, right? Or you could divide 4 into $150 and you could determine what you're going to have to pay, right? So, um, anyways, I just wanted to, talk about this and why I'm wearing it because it is part of my brand. Like pink and black are pretty much my brand colors for Deadites on Deck. And so be on the lookout again for these to show up on the site, which I'm going to all very generously put it in the chat here to you guys and gals. All right. So, also want to remind you of the programming that I currently have on the site, what's coming up. So let's go over that real quick before I lose everybody. So I have the Evil Dead Chick Slasher Fest for New Year's Evil. My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade, Chapter 3, Forgiveness is Key. Celluloid Trash, talking about the Video Dead and Attack of the Beast creatures. The first Horror Mania episode, talking about horror films from 1896 to 1899. An Insomnia Cure, talking about films that I feel like would put somebody to sleep from 1982 to 1983. They're all messed up, talking about Mary, Mary, Bloody Mary, and Strip Nude for Your Killer. Evil Dead Chicks Top 10 Don't Horror Films. Another My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade, Chapter 4, Don't Play the Blame Game. Celluloid Trash, talking about Beyond the Seventh Door and Black Devil Doll from Hell. The second Horror Mania episode, talking about horror films from 1900 to 1905. Another Insomnia Cure, talking about films that I think would put you to sleep from 1984 to 1985. They're All Messed Up from last night, talking about Psychic Killer and Psycho from Texas. And that brings us up to date to tonight's Evil Dead Chicks Top 10 Religious Horror Films. We got a Misery Watch Along coming up tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade, Chapter 5. I can't even talk. Chapter 5. Don't Spread Gossip as Gospel. That's coming up Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Celluloid Trash on Monday, talking about Blood Beat and the Brain. Insomnia Cure for 1986 to 1987 on Tuesday. On Wednesday. There'll be another Horror Mania on Tuesday. On Thursday of this coming week, They're All Messed Up for the Swinging Barmaids and Alice Sweet Alice, which we're going to be talking about Alice Sweet Alice also tonight. Another My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade, Chapter 6, Haters Gonna Hate, but do they need to? There's also a Evil Dead Chicks Be My Deadly Valentine's Slumber Party coming up on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where hopefully several of us are going to be watching Schizoid with Klaus Kinski. And I've also got a few videos that are on the site right now of Midnight Confessions for Final Exam. We Watch Movies, Episode 8. This was me and Steve's first We Watch Movies of the new year. Pick Your Poison Taste Test, Stranger Things, Gatorade, Upside Down Citrus Cooler. My final thoughts on Stranger Things since that series has ended. And also a Movie Munchies for Billy's Black Christmas Cookies. And that brings us up to date on all the stuff I've got up now, and it's upcoming. I also have another We Watch Movies with me and Steve coming up really soon. So without further ado, let's get to these movies. And again, they're in no particular order from favorite to least favorite. These are just my top 10 religious horror films. So the first one I want to talk about is The Exorcist. And The Exorcist tends to win out a lot of times on these shows that you watch where they do a countdown to the scariest horror films of all time. I had that one on my list, Apo. You said that's your pick for tonight's list is The Omen, the original. Yeah, and I'm going to be talking about that one here in just a little bit. The Exorcist was one that I wanted to watch for a long time. It was not one that my parents said, wait to watch or anything. It was just, I guess the opportunity never did come up for me to watch it. And so when it finally did present itself, and I'd always heard about mom and dad going to see it. And my dad, watched a fair amount, and my mom as well, watched a fair amount of horror movies before I was born, after I was born, while I was growing up. And my mom was always really big into horror films. And I credit both her and my Aunt Sandy, who's my mom's sister, for, I guess, fostering that love of horror movies. Because I watched a lot with my mom. I watched a lot with my aunt growing up. And I was not really sheltered from any of this stuff unless it was stuff like I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left, stuff like that. But horror, just straight ahead horror, no, I was really not restricted or sheltered from it. And I think I turned out just fine. But that might be in the eye of the beholder, right? So I finally got to watch The Exorcist, and I had heard, like I said, my parents going to the drive-in and seeing this with another couple. And my dad didn't mind it at that time, but over time, Dad got the heebie-jeebies about The Exorcist or any other movies that had to do with possession. They just, weirded him out, freaked him out. And so he won't watch those kind anymore. But back in the day, when he was a young man, he would watch them. And so I remember him telling about him and mom going to see this at the drive-in with another couple. And the man that was part of the other couple that they double dated with was freaking out in the back seat about this movie. I mean, it just completely freaked him out. Now, I'm laughing about this, but, this movie freaked a lot of people out. It freaked a lot of people out, folks, because you have young Reagan McNeil, played by Linda Blair, who becomes possessed by a demon who says, I'm the devil. So when Father Karras, played by Jason Miller, when he finally, agrees to come see Ellen Burstyn's daughter, Reagan, he says, we should introduce ourselves. He says, I'm Damien Karras. And the entity inside of Reagan says, and I'm the devil. So, Karras plays along and stuff like that. But what is most frightening, I think, to me about this movie is the poor mother, played by Ellen Burstyn, who is trying so hard to figure out what is wrong with her daughter. The stuff really kicks into high gear when her mother, who's an actress, is having a party at the house. And Reagan already hasn't been feeling well. Now, if you watch the extended version or the uncut version, or it was touted as the version you've never seen when it first got released, that particular version got released, you see her Reagan's mother taking her to the doctor, her having test run, the bizarre behavior that she is expressing, just kind of like that, and then falling down on the floor, not wanting to have her temperature taken, and jerking the thermometer out of the doctor's hand and saying, "I don't want it." And, just other things that kind of give you more of an insight into, good Lord, what's going on with this daughter or this little girl. And so the mother's pain, the mother's fear about what is wrong with my daughter? Why is she acting this way? And when her mother has the party, Reagan comes down as the last people are kind of hanging around the piano and singing, and the priest that's there is playing a song, and they're all, singing along. Reagan comes downstairs. What that name is? Sound like one of the dogs, but I don't see him. But anyway, so Reagan comes downstairs, and there was an astronaut there at the party, and he's still there. And he's with a drink in hand, he's singing along with everybody, and he's talking about they're going to go up in space. And Reagan comes downstairs in her nightgown. And this is the first really shocking thing to me that's happened in the film. She comes downstairs, and her eyes look all glazed over. She looks like she's under a spell, or she's sleepwalking or something. Something's wrong. And the priest looks and says, "I think we have a guest." And Reagan looks right at the astronaut and says, "You're going to die up there." And then she proceeds to urinate on the carpet. And, I'm sure that this really shocked audiences back in 73, 74, when this came out, to see a little girl urinate on the floor. And then it kind of progresses from there that, Reagan appears to have a seizure on the bed, and her head spins around after the death of her mother's director friend. And she talks in his voice, or the demon talks in her mother's director's friend's voice, and says, "Do you know what she did?" And et cetera, if you've seen the movie. So, but the movie is not only about shock value. And I don't think that's what Friedkin was going for. That's what a lot of people talk about. They talk about the head turning around. They talk about the pea soup vomit. They talk about the cursing and stuff that the demon does through Reagan, the crucifix masturbation scene, and the stuff she says, which I'm not going to repeat here on YouTube. But if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So it does have a lot of shocking scenes, and that is a lot of what people talk about. But there's a deeper horror to this than just surface level special effects, folks. I think the special effects added to it, but to me, the special effects were not the most horrific part of this movie. It was what was happening to this child. This innocent child, was being taken over by the ultimate evil. And the mother tries to get help everywhere. She goes from doctors to psychiatrists, to these medical professionals at the Behringer Clinic, who nobody can, all they're wanting to do is commit her daughter to a mental hospital. And the mother says, I'm not going to admit her. I don't care what you say. I'm not committing her to a mental hospital. So she turns to the Catholic Church, and she turns to the priest. And the first priest she talks to is Damien Karras, again, played by Jason Miller. And at first, you know, Karras is skeptical, but it begins to unnerve him. There's a scene where he's listening to Reagan, the entity inside of Reagan, talking. And when he splashes holy water on her and she reacts violently, as he says, she seems to be talking in a different language. He talks to a language expert and they say, yeah, it's a language, all right. It's English. And he's like, what? And he said, yeah, it's English in reverse. So, and you see Karras listening to this tape, and all of a sudden the phone rings and he just jumps out of his skin. And as the audience, we jump out of our skin too, or I did the first time I saw this. So this movie has a lot of levels to it. And some people may look at it, oh, it's just a special effects bonanza. It's nonsense. You know, it has really no deep-seated horror to it. But I urge you, if you've only seen this 1 or 2 times and you can stand to watch it now, like my friend Candace, she can't watch this movie. She cannot watch this movie anymore. She doesn't like to see any trailers or anything that's got Reagan's face when she's possessed and stuff like that. She just, you know, she can't handle it. And I respect that. So she probably won't be watch me talk about this particular one on this live stream. So, but if you can tolerate it, right? And if you've never seen The Exorcist and you could think you can tolerate it, then I urge you to watch it. And I'd love to hear people's thoughts on The Exorcist. Are you like me? Do you think it's a really, really good example of a religious horror film or a film in general? And I've talked about this too in the past, that not only is The Exorcist a horror film, there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of very dark drama to this film as well. One of the things that upset people when this came out in theaters was not necessarily all the demonic possession. It was the test that had to be run on poor Reagan MacNeil. You know, with them trying to figure out what was wrong with her, the encephalograms and all that stuff, having to stick the needle into her, looks like her jugular vein, in her neck. Keep in mind, this was early 70s. To, I guess, put dye in there, but like you saw blood shooting out there and everything. So some of that made people sick. Some of that is what actually made people leave theaters, right? So I know I talked a lot about The Exorcist, and I am going to get to these other ones, but this is one that when I think about religious horror, or I think about really good horror films in general, and it's not just because of special effects, as I've explained, I think of The Exorcist. The Exorcist comes to mind every single time. So, you know, I have to put it on my list. So, enough about The Exorcist. We'll move on to the next one, which is Rosemary's Baby, or I don't really like this cover as well as I do this cover. I mean, this one's okay. You can see 2 different images. You can see a pregnant woman, and you can also see a demonic looking creature if you look closely at it. But I've always liked this. This is pretty much the poster art and stuff for Rosemary's Baby as well. You like the creepy O one better too, Kits? Yeah, I think this one really, really works. The new one looks PG. It's a like a kitty. Yeah, I don't know. I guess this was some kind of pop art type of design. I don't know. But I'm like you. I prefer the old cover. So, Rosemary's Baby is one that I have liked for a long time. And it has to do with the devil, it has to do with satanic worship. It has to do with satanic worship by people that you wouldn't expect to be Satan worshipers. Um, and it's really chilling to me, the way this young mother is manipulated, played by Mia Farrow in the film. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Giving you chills, kids. Yes, this one definitely gives me chills, because you have a, and I did not like the character of her husband. I'm not saying that I didn't like John Cassavetes. I've heard things about John Cassavetes that he was hard to deal with and stuff like that, but I have nothing against him as an actor. But the character, um, I did not like, and I was like, this dude is an ass. Um, and when he gets involved with the Satanist, it becomes even worse. Um, so this was directed by Roman Polanski, and I know Roman Polanski has not got a good rep, but the man can make some movies. I've seen several of his movies, and despite his personal life, the man was one hell of a director. I ain't even gonna lie about that. And so this one, was no exception. It's also based on a novel by Ira Levin. The Exorcist is based on a novel as well. And sometimes I think what they do with these films, like The Exorcist, like Rosemary's Baby, when they take the novel material and they make it into something fantastic and terrifying, right? In the case of these horror novels and horror films, um, when the two meld together and something fantastically horrifying is made, I think that is just great. It's just awesome. Ira Levin also wrote The Stepford Wives as well, which I've read both The Stepford Wives and Rosemary's Baby. This was also produced by William Castle. Yeah, that William Castle. Um, so Rosemary is a young, a newlywed wife, and she wants what a lot of young women wanted, especially at that time, to become a mother. Her and her man had been trying and trying and trying and trying, and all of a sudden, once they get connected with the older couple next door in their apartment building, um, the woman who is played by Ruth Gordon, uh, all of a sudden, after a strange dream, she thinks it's a dream that Rosemary has, she's pregnant. And she's happy at first and stuff like that. And then the couple next door gives her this little charm that has some kind of herb in it. And then, unfortunately, Rosemary starts feeling ill, and they saying, it's okay. She goes to the doctor that the neighbors have recommended and all this. And he said, you're fine, Rosemary, everything's fine. You're just nervous because you're a new mother, blah, blah, blah. And then as the movie moves along, it becomes apparent that not only the people next door, but several very prominent older people, which is creepy to me, anyways. It's creepy to me that anybody would be involved with Satanism, but for people that look like grandparents to be involved with worshiping the devil is just, I don't know, it just kind of, like Kit says, it gives you cold chills. This whole movie gives you cold chills. And so by the time Rosemary figures out what is going on, it's too late. And she becomes the mother of Satan's child. And for those of you that didn't know, I think most people know this, especially people that have seen this movie several times. Anton LaVey, who was head of the Church of Satan until he died, actually was Satan in this, who impregnates poor Rosemary. So Anton LaVey he had been a technical advisor on other movies that dealt with Satan. And like I said, he actually played Satan on this. So the eyes that you see when she says, this isn't a dream, it's really happening, that's Anton LaVey. That's all Anton LaVey there. And then one of the most horrifying scenes is when Rosemary has the knife and she's trying to find her baby. And she finds out that the baby is there with all these Satanists. And she's going to go save her baby. And she's like, I want my baby, and they're like, let Rosemary hold her baby. And so she goes to look at the baby and she says, what have you done to his eyes? And they said, nothing. He has his father's eyes. And also something else that is creepy and fantastic as well in this movie is the sing-song, like lullaby, that has that undertone to it that is throughout the movie. I think this really, really adds to it. And what else can I say about this movie other than it's a classic to me? And if you've not seen Rosemary's Baby, if you can find a for free version to watch, I would highly, highly recommend it. All right, so the next one might be a surprise to some of you folks, and one that you might not have thought about. And when I was looking at lists of religious horror films and I came across this one, I was like, oh man, I forgot all about this one, but I definitely got to have it on my list. And that is The First Power, starring Lou Diamond Phillips. Yes, I've seen both of those, Uncle Bill. It's been a while, but yes, I have seen them. Both The Tenant and Repulsion. I think Repulsion was my favorite of those two. And I need to go back and see Repulsion. That's the one with Catherine Deneuve, I believe. But The First Power, I ain't watched this one in a long time, and I really need to go back and watch it. Because this one gave me cold chills, and the Lou Diamond Phillips is fantastic as the cop in this. But you guys and gals, the serial killer, the demonic serial killer in this, is what really seals the deal for me with this one. And there's just something that, and you can watch the first Power on Tubi for free if y'all want to do that. This is listed as a supernatural thriller, but it's got horror in there too. Psychological thriller, crime, horror, thriller. It also has Tracy Griffith from Sleepaway Camp 3. Jeff Kober's in this. As Patrick Channing. I was trying to see if we have David Gale is in this as the Monsignor. Yeah, I mean, so the main plot line of this is a Los Angeles policeman, and that's Lou Diamond Phillips, hunts a killer brought back by Satan. So he's being, battery operated by Satan, basically. So, no, I did not, Uncle Bill, but that's fantastic. You say, did you see where we got shouted out on Tom Segura's show? They have like 4 million followers. That is awesome, Uncle Bill. And that's a cause for celebration. So to get back to the first Power though, the killer in this is so creepy that I still, it gives me chills just thinking about it. And his interaction with Lou Diamond Phillips in the film is fantastic as well. This is also listed as a neo-noir horror film, directed by Robert Reznikov. And the name of the killer is the Pentagram Killer. A murder nicknamed after his habit of carving a pentagram in his victims before killing them. And Jeff Kober is the one who plays the killer. He plays Patrick Channing. And he was a Satan worshiper, and he wants to be executed. And the reason why he wants to be executed, and he dies in the gas chamber, the detective, Logan, played by Lou Diamond Phillips, begins having visions and hearing Channing's voice. So, I mean, this is one that you got to trust me on this one, folks. If you have not seen the first Power, I urge you to watch the first Power. I mean, the plot, as I'm describing it, probably sounds pretty basic, but the movie is far from being basic or plain or anything like that. It's a must watch, in my opinion. If you are at all interested in this type of horror film, then I say check out the first Power, folks. All right. So the next one is the one that the poet said was his pick, and that is the original Omen, starring Gregory Peck. There is also a novel of the Omen as well. And I think what really makes this film work is not Lee Remick, who plays the mother. It's not Gregory Peck, who plays the father. It is the child who plays the child, Damien, in this. It has to go, kudos has to go to that kid. Because I've heard stories about this kid. When this kid tried out for or auditioned for the part of Damien, right? Um, he was asked to come at the director, I believe, and this kid did. Basically, I think he came up and kicked the guy in the balls and everything else. I mean, this kid really wanted this part. And that was Harvey Stevens, folks. And he is Damien, the Antichrist, in the film The Omen. So Lee Remick is supposed to have a baby. Her baby dies, and they switch out her baby for the Antichrist because the Antichrist wants to come to power, so he needs to become part of a well-renowned family that's in politics. And Gregory Peck is that. So, but I still say kudos to Harvey Stevens for being the type of child that I mean, look at this kid. I haven't seen too many kids that can express that kind of subtle, I say subtle evil, because he does things with his eyes, even as a child, that I don't think a lot of grown actors and actresses could do. Okay. So, and one of the scenes that sticks out in my mind and has been shown over and over again, and no, I'm not talking about the beheading scene with the glass. That is cool. But a scene that sticks with me and still sticks to me to this day from this film is when Damien's nanny, his first nanny, comes out on the balcony of the house during Damien's birthday party with a noose around her neck and says, "It's all for you, Damien," and jumps off or out of the window and hangs herself, leaving a job opening for Billy Whitelaw to come in as Damien's new nanny and protector. Hey, Stacy. It is cold back here where I'm at, Wes, but I'm also trying to advertise these new jackets that I'm going to be offering on the site, customized live streamer and podcaster jackets. So I'm soon going to have those on the Dead Ice on Deck horror shop at deadiceondeck.com. Thank you for allowing me to advertise that again, Wes. I'm not going to talk about the Pope's exorcist tonight, Wes. Stacy, I do like Stigmata. It's not on my list of top 10 religious horror films, but I do like it and I have watched it. It's been a while though. Uncle Will, you say Rambo Mark and I did a commentary on it. It's like a great action horror movie. You talking about the first Power, Uncle Bill? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's fantastic. So the next one I want to talk about, because I know I rambled on about so many of these, is okay. So people feel free to disagree. Disagree with me on this, but I'm going to have The Exorcism of Emily Rose on this list. Okay, folks, whether you believe in exorcism or demonic possession or anything like that, right? This movie gets inside your head and it doesn't get out. And I'm not saying it's better than The Exorcist, but when I first watched it, it got inside my head more than The Exorcist ever did. I can forget about I'm not meaning this to sound like I don't care about The Exorcist, because hey, I talked about it on here too. But The Exorcist was like, wow, when I saw it. Now, when The Exorcism of Emily Rose came out, whether you believe the case, because it's supposed to be based on a true story, whether you believe the case or not, whether you believe that she was possessed by the devil or a demon or not, I'm just saying, watch this movie. Whether you believe in exorcisms, demonic possession, a possession of any kind, this did come out in 2005. I did not go to the movies and see it. I saw it, I guess, on DVD, probably was the first time that I saw it. Stacey, you say terrific. Exorcism of Emily Rose, Laura Linney and Tom Wilkinson and Jennifer Carpenter. Great. Yes. And Jennifer Carpenter does play Emily Rose in this film. Now, Emily Rose was not the name of the original girl. They probably changed this for certain reasons, But I believe the real girl was a German girl. But this tells the story of Emily Rose, played by Jennifer Carpenter in the film. And it's part courtroom drama, but it has a lot of horror in it and a lot of things that got under my skin and stayed there for a while after I watched it. And so much so, in fact, that I had to wait a little while before I watched this again after that first original watch. So you have a young girl who basically lives on a farm with her family. And she goes away to college. And when she goes away to college, bad things start to happen. I think she has visions. And there is one scene where her boyfriend comes into her room to find her kind of like frozen in a weird position. It's just so bizarre. You have to watch this to really get the impact of what I'm talking about here. And there were things, like I said, that for whatever reason stuck in my head long. I don't think it's not something that I had nightmares or I had trouble sleeping or anything like that, but it was things that kind of made you think, like the 3 a.m. being the witching hour and the things that would happen at 3 a.m. to poor Emily Rose. And they just continue to get worse and worse and worse. She has to come home from college. And her family, again, like the mother in The Exorcist, is, what is wrong with our daughter? What are we going to do? Another scene that particularly stands out for me in this film is the scene where they come into Emily Rose's bedroom and she's crouched in the corner. And at first you don't know what she's doing. And when she turns around, she's eating bugs. And they're just like all over her mouth and stuff. And she's got this crazed look in her eye. Credit has to really go to Jennifer Carpenter for pulling a lot of this off. And then she starts saying, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And bouncing around the room. And some people might think that is ridiculous. But the scene of her turning around, and you can see that she's been eating bugs, and then the demonic voice saying, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is just terrifying to me. And some people may laugh. They may have not seen this movie. They may think I'm being ridiculous. But if you have not seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and you can tolerate the demonic possession films, I think this is one that you should see. It's terrifying and heartbreaking at the same time. Whether you believe in the real story or you don't believe in the real story. Sorry, that's my reminder. If I had my heater on, I need to turn it off. But uh, I had to include the exorcism of Emily Rose on here as well, because other than The Exorcist, this is one of my top exorcism films. The Exorcist and this one. I've seen The Seventh Sign. Again, I don't have that one on my list, but I do like that one. I do like The Seventh Sign, Stacy. So the next one I want to talk about is John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. Some people might not consider this one a religious horror film, but I do, because it does have a lot of religious elements. It has to do with the Catholic Church. It has to do with Satan, and it has to do with a group of, I believe they're philosophy students, but they're graduate students in any event, and they are asked to come and study at the church where this big vial of big container of green, it looks like swirling green liquid, but it becomes more horrifying than just some green liquid, let me tell you, folks. In that it ends up spraying into one of the graduate students' mouth, thereby possessing her. And lots of other scary things happen, including a scene where one of the guys leaves and says, "This is basically bullshit. I'm out of here. I'm leaving." And they see him again outside, and they say, "Hey, that's," I can't remember his name right now, but that's him. And he delivers the line, "I have a message for you, and you're not going to like it." And then his head falls off and all these bugs come out. To me, that's creepy. The whole thing, "I have a message for you and you're not going to like it," which is actually when Steve gets a text on his phone, that's what his phone says. He has that set up. So I hear that every time Steve gets a text. Yes, yeah, I mean, you could call that a religious one too, Stacy. I don't have that one on my list, but The Fog, you could definitely say that. Um, but uh, also, there's a scene with one of the gentlemen who gets possessed, and he's singing a religious song and then laughing, and then proceeds to kill himself in front of the others. This is a scene that you just got to see it to get the full extent of it. Me talking about it is not enough to represent how that gives me cold chills. Okay. So, just if you've never seen Prince of Darkness and you can either get your hands on a copy or watch it for free somewhere, definitely watch this. This is one of my favorite John Carpenter films other than Halloween. I like a fair amount of John Carpenter's films, but this, other than Halloween, this is one of my favorites that he did. So the next one I want to talk about is Alice Sweet Alice. And this is one that Kits says that she really likes too. Alice Sweet Alice, I just watched again recently. So this tells the story at first of young Karen, who is Alice's younger sister, played by Brooke Shields in the movie. Karen is played by Brooke Shields in the movie, is murdered by an unknown assailant in a yellow raincoat, and it is a creepy translucent mask. What in the old days they used to call false faces. And it's on the day of her first communion. that she's killed. Um, and so Alice is a troubled child, and Alice is played by, I think it's Patty Shepard. And Patty Shepard was a lot older than she was playing in this film. She's one of those people that is older but looks much younger, right? And they blame it on Alice because Alice is troubled. They think that Alice not only killed Karen out of jealousy and spite and vengefulness and all that stuff. And so they put her in a mental health facility for a little while. But they also accuse her of some of the other murders that are going on in town, all perpetrated by this person with the yellow raincoat and the translucent mask, all of which Alice has in her possession too, right? Carrie could be considered religious horror as well, Stacy. It's not on my list, but definitely, yes, you could include that. So I really like the setups in this. There's a lot of creepy religious stuff in here, which is the main reason I put it on my list. But it's also a fantastic horror movie, a fantastic slasher movie, dare I say it. It's atmospheric, it's creepy, and although Steve disagrees with me on this, but I think Kit's agreed with me on it, that it has some similarities to the film Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. And if you don't believe me, watch both films back to back, and maybe you'll see the similarities that I do. But this is as people say, a top tier movie. No two ways about it. It is fantastic. And I was late to the party of discovering Alice Sweet Alice, but once I discovered it, I was like, whoa, yeah, this movie is really something to, wait a little while, watch it again. Because it's also one of those that you sometimes don't catch it. Daggone fly. You don't catch everything in one viewing. I think it's one of those films that it has so many layers to it that I think it warrants a second, third, fourth, fifth, on and on viewing. And I don't know. I could go on and on about it, but I won't. But if you've never seen Alice Sweet Alice, check this one out, folks. All right. So the next one I have is another Exorcist film. And no, it's not Exorcist 2 because I think Exorcist 2 is boring as all get out. There may be some people that like Exorcist 2. Steve always says Exorcist 2 is where Linda Blair is Pazuzu's Reagan. I said, well, whatever. I was very disappointed by The Exorcist 2. But Exorcist 3, no. Exorcist 3 is based on William Peter Blatty's book, Legion. And this one really fits the bill when it comes to creepiness, the creepiness factor, the horror factor, all of that stuff. So you have a police lieutenant. Again, it's supposed to be Lieutenant Kinderman from the first Exorcist, only this time he's played by George C. Scott. And George C. Scott is fantastic in this, by the way, folks. Who's been haunted by the death of his friend, Father Damien Karras. Which, if you watch The Exorcist, you know what happens to Father Karras in that. Now, on the 15th anniversary of the exorcism that claimed the priest's life, Kinderman's world is once again shattered when a boy is found decapitated and savagely crucified. It's just the beginning of a nightmare series of bizarre religious murders. There's also a psychopath played by Brad Dourif, claiming to be the infamous Gemini killer, admits responsibility for all the murders. But not only that, but there are several creepy scenes in this movie, including a patient in the hospital who's crawling on the ceiling at one point like some sort of insect. It's just bizarre. You got to watch it. Stacy, you say yes, Al Sweet Alice is good. Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, so The Exorcist and The Exorcist 3, even though The Exorcist 3 doesn't have Linda Blair in it, it doesn't talk any, I mean, it probably talks about the exorcism, but it doesn't have Linda Blair in it. It doesn't have her talking about, the exorcism. It doesn't have Ellen Burstyn in it, none of that. But it still has a tie-in with the original Exorcist because you've got Kinderman, you talk about Damien Karras. Those were characters from the original Exorcist. And I read the book Legion that William Peter Blatty did, and William Peter Blatty also directed this, folks. So even though he may have not gotten to do everything that he wanted to do with The Exorcist, because I don't want to say him and William Friedkin were at odds during The Exorcist, but I think that William Peter Blatty had some issues with some of the things that Friedkin took license with. Now, I'm not saying Friedkin didn't make an excellent movie. He did. I had The Exorcist on this list. I'm just saying sometimes the writer and a director, when a director gets a hold of a writer's source material and they change some things, sometimes it doesn't sit well with the writer. And that doesn't mean they have an all-out fight. It just means that maybe there were some disagreements or things that the writer didn't agree with, and didn't feel like it did the original source material justice. I think by the time of both, of Blatty's death, I think Friedkin and him had, come to terms with all those things. And now, unfortunately, Friedkin's gone as well. So, we will never have that great team up again, will we? Which I thought they were a great team. Blatty was a great writer, and he wasn't a bad director on Exorcist 3 either. Very creepy, very atmospheric movie, which probably should have been the second Exorcist movie. They should have just forgot all about Pazuzu Reagan and Locust and James Earl Jones trying to harvest the locust or whatever the heck he was doing in this movie in Exorcist 2. I would have been just happy with The Exorcist and this. And to me, they would have bookended each other perfectly. All right. So the next one I want to talk about. Now, I know some people have problems with the Conjuring movie, but I'm going to talk about the Conjuring movie. And some people think that the Warrens were full of shit. Well, that's okay. Everybody has their opinions on this. But whether you believe in the Warrens or you think they were full of shit, this movie is a chair jumper, folks. And some people might not like that. But it's a popcorn movie. It's a chair jumper. And it's a very, in my opinion, well-made horror film. And you're probably thinking, well, how does it have to do with religion, Dana? Well, one of the things is the mother in this becomes possessed. And the Warrens have to, whether you believe or don't believe, but within the movie, they conduct an exorcism on the woman. There are several frightening images that show up, like behind people come out of the darkness. Yes, Lily Taylor is underrated, I think, Stacy. Yes. And Lily Taylor does play the mother in this. I grew up watching Lily Taylor in all those, those teen movies, some with John Cusack in it, who I enjoy John Cusack as well. But she's great as the mother. You can see her here. And you can see this has the lenticular cover of the hands clapping there. Me and Steve actually did go to the movies to see The Conjuring. And I'm trying to remember if we went opening night or not, and I cannot recall if we did. Now, some people have problems that it says based on true events. Like I said, a lot of people, and there are a lot, that think the Warrens were full of shit, that they were con artists, that they were this, that, and the other. And like I say, I'm willing to put all that aside and just talk about the movie itself. And I think to really appreciate this movie, if you have any qualms about the Warrens, you will have to put them aside in order to fully appreciate this movie. Okay? Just, forget that Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson are supposed to be playing the Warrens. I think Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson are excellent, and regardless of who they're playing, they're fantastic in this. But they're supposed to be helping a family terrorized by an evil spirit in their mysterious farmhouse. Okay? But that sounds pretty basic. That is until you sit down and watch this movie. And really, if you can't watch this in a movie theater in the dark with a bunch of other people and watch those people just jump up and down. Steve was yelling out. Other people were yelling out, jumping out of their seats. You could literally see the people jumping out of their seats. So if you can't watch it that way, then watch it alone, by yourself, in a dark room, and tell me that this movie doesn't scare the pants off of you. Okay? Because this was another one that got under my skin and stayed there. Again, regardless of what you think of the Warrens, the stories that they told about the cursed objects, and I know Steve was all gung-ho. I'll tell you this little story. Steve was all gung-ho about the Conjuring movie. And he loved it when we went to see it. And then along about the time that the second Conjuring, between the first Conjuring movie and the second Conjuring movie, a bunch of stuff came out. Some of it from the kids from this first tale that was told in The Conjuring, the real life kids. Basically people started coming out of the woodwork and saying that the Warrens were frauds. I mean, I know they've been saying that for years about the Warrens. And, I don't know. Personally, I thought that they seemed sincere and stuff like that. And I'm not on here to argue with anybody about the Warrens. I'm just saying from my perspective, the people seem sincere. If other people think they're con artists, that's they're totally, it's a free country and you have a right to your opinion on this. Just the same way I have a right to my opinion. But I would, if you are hating on this movie because you don't like the Warrens and don't believe the Warrens, please, I beg of you, try to go in and watch this movie with an open mind. Don't be thinking about the Warrens. Don't be thinking about what other people have said about them. Don't even be thinking about what your opinions are, because that clouded Steve's judgment after he started hearing this, and then he didn't really have an interest in any of the other Conjuring movies. I mean, that's not to say that he didn't go with me to some films, the Conjuring films, including the last one we saw. But between the first one and the second one, Steve started seeing all this stuff where people start coming out of the woodwork saying things like the Warrens weren't even there. The Warrens came, I think it was the Edinburgh haunting, that they didn't even come there, or they showed up there and were asked to leave, and all kinds of things. So I don't know what's true. I don't know what's not true, right? I'm just saying this is one hell of a movie, regardless of whether you believe the Warrens, don't believe the Warrens, whatever you believe, right? Like the Warrens, hate the Warrens, indifferent about the Warrens. I'm talking about the film, right? So I think if you can go in with an open mind and watch it just as a straight horror film, I think you will have a better appreciation for it than if you go in with these preconceived notions or thoughts about the Warrens. Just totally forget about the Warrens if you can possibly do that and just watch the movie for what it is. All right. So moving on to the last movie, and this may be taking people back a ways. This was from 2002, and it's Frailty with Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton on it, folks. This movie is another one that really got under my skin and really made me think, okay, is this father crazy? The father played by Bill Paxton, who when his sons are younger, he all of a sudden has some kind of, he says, religious revelation where he is told that he has to go out and slay demons, basically. And he tells his sons, these demons will look like regular people, but they've done horrible things. I've been shown the horrible things that these people have done. And one of his sons believes him and wants to help. One of his sons does not and thinks his father's crazy. So this has a lot to do with not only just religious horror in general, but religious mania. There are some people that, literally lose their minds over religion. And so you're left wondering during the majority of this movie, is the father sane? Was he really shown these things? Or is he off his rocker? And neither one of those is a really settling thought because they're out, killing what looks to be regular people. Tom, you say you saw it in the cinema. Are you talking about Frailty or are you talking about The Conjuring? I figure you're talking about Frailty. Even Stephen King said this with Edge of the Seat Entertainment. Roger Ebert said Two Thumbs Way Up, one of the year's best films, and it's hard to please Roger Ebert, or it was. God rest his soul. I didn't always agree with him, but, he's no longer with us. Stephen Holden of the New York Times said this is the ultimate in cinematic horror. I did not get to see Frailty in the theater. I wish that I had. I think the first time I saw it was probably on DVD. But yeah, if you have not seen Frailty, I highly, highly recommend this one. This one, again, is one that gets under your skin and stays there. Very thought-provoking, very horrifying. Whatever whatever belief system you lean towards, whether the father really was told by a good entity that he needs to slay these demons that look like real people, or is the father mentally ill? So that is my top 10 religious horror films. I may have had some of them that would have been on your list. There may have been some that you would have said, no. I'm not going to put on my list. But maybe I got you interested enough to either watch them for the first time around, or if it's been a while since you watched them, maybe you'll pull them off your shelf and watch them again. Hey, Dana was talking about it. Maybe I'll give this one another try, right? Especially if you didn't really care for it the first time out. So I guess that is it for me for tonight. But I do want to thank everybody that was here tonight. Um, and also, I want to remind you that these customized podcaster and live streamer jackets should be up on the site, deaditesondeck.com, here shortly. So be sure to visit the site for all your horror and non horror needs because I do custom work as well. So if you need, shirts for your baseball team or for some other event or something that you're doing, please, a business, a side business. Somebody in your family has a new business or side business, and you need some logo shirts done. Hey, hit me up. I have a form on the site at deaditesondeck.com, and you can feel free to ask me, hey, Dana, I need, 25 shirts or 50 shirts with, and you can describe the logo. I will create a logo. I will let you see it and you yay or nay it. And if you yay it, I will move ahead with doing it after I get the money, of course. But you will be able to accept or reject the logo. And I will work with you until we get something that you can, that you like, right? But I want to thank the poet and Kits and Uncle Bill and Wes and Stacy and Tom for being here with me and hanging out in the chat as I went through my top 10 religious horror films tonight. For those of you that maybe didn't feel comfortable, that's okay, Tom. You can always go back and watch this on the replay. The important thing was that you were here at some point, and I appreciate that. But for those of you that maybe didn't feel comfortable getting in the chat, or you were watching this live stream on a device like a television that you are unable to chat, I want to thank you for watching along as well. And for those of you that didn't get to join me live tonight, but will watch this on a replay, I appreciate you guys and gals as well. And as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your Friday evening, folks, and Friday night. And I'll see everybody next time.